So it's too mountainous for them to have cows up there. So goats.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I'm setting up Zoom. I am listening to you.
Now I lost my train of thought. So yeah, no coffee, no.
So Sage is broken. So I don't really have a solution for the other 30 extra credit points right now. Right.
Sage, I thought Sage was a person. I'm like, oh.
Sage is like the third part. Now, if I can reach them or I can get a hold of them in the next week and a half and they can fix it, I will put those back on the table for you guys. But I don't really have a solution for other extra credit if Sage is not working at the moment. It's not that there couldn't be a solution. I just don't know what that is because it seems to still be broken. And I feel like 45 total points would be a lot. Welcome, glad you're all here. I don't think 15 is a big deal because that's just like your reviews, and your reviews help me keep the classes full, which I appreciate. So
Yeah, by the way, your thing, entire late my investment got deleted. I tried to do it because I got really bad score on the exam too, and your thing got deleted. So you're like good person on that. I made cookies, by the way, just regular sugar ones.
I don't think you got deleted. Like when? Like,
Fully deleted. There's only 3 of us, huh?
there's a bunch of folks on Zoom.
Some more cookies for us. Thank you. That's awesome.
There was COD, and I tried to do it after I took exam too, because I knew I wasn't gonna get a good score. Yeah, your thing got wiped completely.
Yeah, right here. No, it's right here. No, we're good. We're good.
NA.
What?
I tried to, write a review for you and it said NA, like not applicable.
I need you to screenshot it to me so I lead you guys up one by one, because I can't really search by text. If you texted me, that's cool, but send it on email. But I see there's some stuff that's here, you guys.
I wrote this whole thing out, and then I went to save it, and then it like hung up. I had agreed to login, so I had to redo it all.
Ooh. So there's cookies up here. Sorry, Zoom folks, more cookies for us. Can't really virtually give you the cookies, so. But I understand why a bunch of us are on Zoom. I know how cold it is. I get it, guys. So. That's like t-shirt and jean and shorts, right? I mean, if you grow up.
We should be fine. I feel like that should be like the.
Thank you, these cookies are so good.
One year you guys broke the internet on this, by the way. It might have been your cohort or the cohort before. Like, rate my professors went down for like an hour, and I was like, good job, guys. Keep breaking the internet. Yeah, or maybe that was your cohort. Yeah. Yeah.
Like regular psychology.
I was gonna tell you though, I still can't get into the extra credit, the chapter 15 and 17.
You just missed my announcement. I will still honor 15 extra credit points for the reviews. The whole idea with the 30, with the 15 and 15 was that you were learning more stats, because that made sense. I don't know if I have an easy solution unless I can get them to pick up the phone or pick up the email and talk to me about fixing Sage being down. I would much prefer to say, guys, here's your other idea. Now, if anybody wants to sidebar with me or has any suggestions for extra credit, I will be more than happy to objectively listen to any of you guys, but I may or may not agree with you. Like, if you're like, well, how about this or that? You can totally talk to me or say, here's this resource, whatever, but I don't know if I'm going to grant it, because I know Sage is tied to the curriculum. I know it's tied to stuff I don't lecture to. That makes sense. But if you all have like a random idea that would be comparable to what went away and you bring it up soon, could go either way, but I would at least at a minimum hear you out and say, I approve or don't. I'd prefer to have more extra credit on the table, because I know the class is dense. I know there's a lot of stuff, so. But I don't have an easy solution, because the last 3-4 years of teaching this class, it was that, and it was really easy. So, what do we have on Zoom, guys? We're going to take attendance, then we're going to dive right in to the math. I'm careless right now. Yeah, we'll be all right. So we'll do attendance.
They're so soft.
They're really good.
I'm doing 2 pans on 1 oven, so I tried to like switch them halfway through. Somehow I was hoping they wouldn't go in the middle.
No, they're awesome. These are great.
So quickly. These are. If you would like to share the recipe, I would like that, but don't feel like you have to. Maybe it's a family secret.
Not gonna lie, it's just basic.
Oh,
I got really lazy. I didn't want to make full on like cookies. Because
Christian.
I have 3 classes before this, so it's all it's still a time frame. And chilling is just, you have to chill for like 3 hours.
John.
Wait, process it.
I like it.
Jordan, got you. Malaya. Megan. Are you even here, Megan? No, you're not. Okay. We're on 12. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive into the math. I'm going to do what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the non-publisher worksheet. Mine from scratch is like literally Dr. Mac deep dive, because it's literally a super deep dive on it. Address that, and then probably wrap up with the publisher one and or any SPSS stuff, this class to the next, and then I'll like review anything like we've missed that we need to go through, etc. is what I was thinking. That probably makes the most sense, just dive into 12. And I'll give you leniency on any pending SPSS stuff and deadlines. I think there's like, there's like 1 worksheet, I think, and maybe I could do that at the end, because SPSS goes fast.
Okay. That's yes for, I think we did 10 and 11. You said to hold off.
Yeah, or I could do that now, which I'm happy to do, but I have to grab.
Sorry, Baltimore couldn't do it because I don't have it on my new laptop.
Okay. Nathan, Sydney, Logan, Drew. I think you're here. Okay. Kara, you're here. Joshua, no. Braylon, no. Nuvia, no. Rory, no. Isabel, apparently you're. I don't think you're here. Bob, no. Pamela, no. Dorothy, you're here. Dorothy. If you guys want to jump into the SPSS, I can do that, but I have to go upstairs and grab the textbook. I was thinking dive into 12 and then segue towards sort of like wrapping up the loose ends, because 12 is actually pretty easy, but there's a lot of steps. It's not that book, it's a hardcover. I was thinking we dive into 12. That's the hardest thing we're going to do. Make sure we get to clarity on that. And we still have like 5 more hours to basically cover a chapter review and any SPSS stuff. But I'm not really going to do the lecture. I'm just going to dive into like the notes and the math, because I think that's at this point the most beneficial for you guys. Maddie, I don't think you're here. And Emma, I don't think you're here either. Okay. Submit. There's cookies up here. Unless you guys didn't. Okay, I think y'all noticed. Okay. Fair. Okay.
No, they don't buy my house.
No, what's up to say like?
Okay, so that's just Zoom stuff. All right, share. Screen share. All right. Student resources. In-class activities. And now it's gonna be just a second to find it, because I've taught this for like ever now. We don't want those. We want the deep dive by me, which might be this one. No. Is it this one? Yep, this is it. This is literally it. And this is broken apparently. Okay, so we're going to go like this. I'm going to change the date. We're going to say in-class activities 12/4/24. Submit, admit, Drew, got you. And I'm going to go into the older class and grab the worksheet so it actually makes sense, which takes like 2 seconds. Student resources. Resources in class. Yes. Yeah. You guys can still hand stuff in. Just don't let it become like everything. That's a lot, but I'll still help you. Yeah, you can hand them in. Yeah, that's fine. So I think we want the reference file. No, maybe it was, I think the third one's better. And then deep dive. And we'll go back into the other one. Fall. Okay.
The reason I'm thinking membership, because I kind of figure out what you need.
Okay. If your math is right, you can still earn full credit. How about that? Now, if your math is not making sense, then that's totally different. But if you've done the math correctly, then it can be more than just completion. And I won't apply like a late penalty. Like I'll just get it in ASAP. Like next few days, like if that's realistic, like I'll work with you. Student resources. All right. So in-class activities, we're going to go into did I not just see that? We're going to make this available to you guys so you can see it. And then we're going to go into today's date. And then I'm just going to take and go edit. And I'm going to move this out of the way. We're going to mark all these for removal.
The worksheet.
This is a different thing. It's the space issue, but if you guys see anything else, just let me know. And I am going to double check the points before I do final grades. So if there's anything we skip or we don't do or I cut, I will adjust it back down so that it makes sense for you guys. Like I will be very, very fair with like the point spread and everything. It should be roughly what I said. There is a list in the announcements of everything we're doing. I think we're pretty much tracking for that. There may or may not be homework, or I might cut some stuff, or I might just say, hey, you got to do it on your own. But we only have a few worksheets realistically. So I still think we got plenty of time. But I'll work with you guys on that. And then of course the exam reviews, you'd want to do those by next week in pairs, in groups, however you want to do it, and definitely post them to the discussion board so your colleagues can benefit from your notes if you choose to. and that's a separate grade. The exam 3 review, which would be chapters 9 through 12, but for next week. Yeah, like Tuesday. Yeah. So we're gonna go into the deep dive. So we're gonna need the document and we're gonna need the Excel sheet, and they're both gonna help us stay on point and on track here.
And you said you were gonna go, like, by the end of class, you're gonna scroll down and make sure everything, because my chapter 1's still like,
So what I'll do, check,
yeah.
Oh, mine too.
it's not showing the points or it's not.
Not like 1 point.
Oh, that's an easy fix. But if you feel comfortable with me doing that in class, I can do that at the end or on the break or something if that would, because all you gotta do is just find the column. And as long as you guys have taken it, it takes me like a minute or two to do it top. So that's really no big deal. That's no problem. So does everybody have the worksheet up? Yeah. Copies? Like we're like a printer? No, I just have electronically. That's it. I'm not sure how to do the printers here.
Is this in class assignment?
Yeah, so what you guys are looking for is right here. So you're looking for in-class activities, today's date. There's an Excel sheet that will probably save us time, and there's a Word document. This is the deep dive where I walk you through basically like the shorthand notes of the lecture and then problems and the math and all the steps. And then the other thing's a publisher worksheet, the SPSS stuff. And then I do have a final review for chapters 9 through 12, which goes through everything again one more time. Some of the problems might be the same or different, but it's the same concept just for practicing. And that's probably everything realistically at this point. There might be I might have one more worksheet for 11 maybe, but like I said, I will look at all the cumulative points and I'll be super fair with you guys so that the syllabus aligns and everything. So if anything gets cut or we skip something, like I'll take the points out so that it's fair.
I'm pretty sure we did a worksheet for 10 and 11, because my notes said we did it, but that we were gonna do the SBS card before that.
Well, I'll probably do this worksheet, the publisher, and then SPS, or this one SPS and the other worksheet. The publisher worksheet I have the answers for, and I can post. This is like the minutia, and if you get this, you're probably going to be pretty good for the final. If 9, 10, and 11 are making sense. And now this has a lot of steps. So the important part is to like go slow. All right. So the levels of the factor are symbolized as K. Everybody see that okay? And that's the number of groups or different ways in which independent or quasi-independent variable are measured. FYI, we're going to talk about analysis of variance, or ANOVA. Analysis of variance measures the variance among 2 or more groups. Analysis of variance, aka ANOVA, is a statistical procedure used to test hypotheses. Oh, the last day. So it should be pre-test and post-test through chapter 12. Any and all worksheets we've done all the way through chapter 12. Exam reviews, 9 through 12, the PowerPoint thing. I'll make sure that that's available, or even if it's hidden right now. I think that's worth like 30 points. I'll probably assign the review of all the chapters next week in class is probably what I'll do. I might say, hey, here's the worksheet, do it on your own, and then we can review answers maybe, so you guys can practice. If we have time, if I end up doing it that way, I may say present your notes. That might help us as a classroom activity, like the way you thought about it, besides just your colleagues reading them. We have a discussion board as a backup anyways. That's pretty much everything, Nuvia. I think that made sense for everybody. If not, just speak up, guys and gals. Analysis of variance. ANOVA statistical procedure used to test hypotheses for 1 or more factors concerning the variance among 2 or more groups. Yeah, for next week. Where K is greater than 2, or the variance in 1 or more populations are known, not is. That should actually say are. Because the subject and verb have to agree in number and form, are known. FYI, in a one-way between subjects ANOVA, different participants are observed at each level of one factor. Definitions: a one-way between subjects ANOVA is a stat procedure used to test hypotheses for one factor with two or more levels concerning the variance among group means. This test is used when different participants are observed at each level of a factor and the variance in any one population is unknown. A between subjects design is a research design in which we select independent samples, meaning that different participants are observed at each level of a factor. A one-way between subjects ANOVA can be used when samples are selected from one or more populations. For an ANOVA, K is the number of groups. N is the number of participants per group, lowercase, and capital N is the total number of participants in a study. That's our population, technically. There are two sources of variation in a one-way between subjects ANOVA. One way attributed to differences between groups, and one associated with observing different participants in each group within groups. Definitions: between groups variation is a variation attributed to the mean differences between groups. A source of variation is any variation that can be measured in a study. In the one way between subjects ANOVA, there are two sources of variation attributed to differences between group means and variation attributed to error. Within groups variation is the variation attributed to mean differences within each group. This source of variation cannot be attributed to or caused by having different groups and is therefore called error variation. We are in class assignments 12-4-24 under in-class assignments for anybody that's just coming in right now. An F distribution is a skewed distribution derived from the sampling of F ratios. The variances measured in an ANOVA test are computed as mean squares. A mean square is a variance. The two terms mean the same thing. They are synonyms. The formula for this test statistic, called the F statistic, is the variance between groups, or the mean square between groups, MS sub BG, mean square between groups, divided by the variance within groups, or mean square within groups. Mean square within groups is more commonly called mean square error. The formula for the test statistic is F obtained value is equal to mean square between groups, or variance between groups, divided by the mean square error, or variance within groups. FYI, the test statistic for an ANOVA measures the variance attributed to the mean differences between groups, MSBG, divided by the variance attributed to the error, MSE. The F statistic, or F obtained value, is the test statistic for an ANOVA. We're going to do the same thing, F score versus F obtained value. It is computed in the mean square, or variance between groups, divided by the mean square, or variance within groups. The mean square between groups, MSBG, is the variance attributed to the differences between group means. It's the numerator, so it's the top of the test statistic. Mean square error, or MSE, or mean square within groups, is the variance attributed to differences within each group. It is the denominator of the test statistic. The degrees of freedom between groups, DFBG, or degrees of freedom numerator, are the degrees of freedom associated with the variance of the group means in the numerator of the test statistic. They are equal to the number of groups K minus 1. The variance in the numerator is attributed to differences between group means. The degrees of freedom for this variance are called degrees of freedom numerator, or degrees of freedom between groups, degrees of freedom between groups. The degrees of freedom for this variance are the number of groups K minus 1. Degrees of freedom between groups is equivalent to K minus 1. The degrees of freedom error, DFE, degrees of freedom within groups, or degrees of freedom within groups, or degrees of freedom denominator, so the bottom one, are degrees of freedom associated with the error variance in the denominator. They are equal to the sample size N minus the number of groups K. The variance for the denominator is attributed to error. The degrees of freedom for this variance are called the degrees of freedom error, DFE, degrees of freedom within groups, or degrees of freedom denominator. The degrees of freedom for this variance are the total sample size N minus the number of groups K. Degrees of freedom error is equal to N minus K. We're going to use all this. The reason for the reference to the numerator and denominator for degrees of freedom is that there are two sets of degrees of freedom. One for the variance placed in the numerator of the test statistic between groups, and one for the variance placed in the denominator, test statistic error variance. So F obtained values equals variance between groups divided by variance within groups. Degrees of freedom, K minus 1 divided by N over K. So let us calculate the degrees of freedom using the data of 12.2 in our textbook. In this hypothetical study, we had one factor type of class with three levels, psychology, sociology, and biology. So K is 3. We observed 5 students in each class, N is 5. for a total of 15 participants in the study. Large N is 15. All of those make sense so far? Just how we got there? Okay. Because N is 15, the total degrees of freedom in this test should sum to 14. N minus 1 is 14. N minus 1. N minus 14. Degrees of freedom between the groups in the numerator are K minus 1. Degrees of freedom between groups, 3 minus 1 is 2. The degrees of freedom error in the denominator are N minus K. Degrees of freedom error, 15 minus 3 is 12. So those numbers make sense so far. When we state the degrees of freedom for an ANOVA, we always state the degrees of freedom between groups and the degrees of freedom error. For this study, we then have an ANOVA with 2 and 12 degrees of freedom. These degrees sum to 14, which equal N minus 1. The number of groups K and the sample size per group N and total N are used to compute degrees of freedom. So changing any one of the degrees of freedom will change the shape of the F distribution, which is only positive, by the way. As the value for K, N, or N increases, so too will the total degrees of freedom. As the total degrees of freedom increase, the F distribution becomes less skewed, meaning the tails of the F distribution pull closer to the Y-axis. In terms of the critical values for an ANOVA, as degrees of freedom increase, the critical values get smaller. Hence, as degrees of freedom increase, the power to detect an effect also increases. To locate the critical values for an ANOVA, we use the F table, which is given in table C3. So what we're talking about, if you go into student resources and you click on chapter 6 and you click on the Z table, which you pretty much use from chapter 6 on, and you scroll down, you will eventually see is that the F table? C3? I think it's the F table. Yeah. Degrees of freedom numerator. Yeah. This is your F table at the end here. C3. So we're going to cross-reference that. To use the table, look at the degrees of freedom numerator listed in the columns and the degrees of freedom in the denominator listed in rows. The critical value is the entry found at the intersection of the 2 degrees of freedom. For a one-way ANOVA with 2 and 12 at a 0.05 level of significance, the critical value is 3.89. So where do they get that from? 2 and 12 degrees. 2 and 12, 3.89. And the reason we know it's this one is our key, I think further up tells us that, doesn't it? Yeah, 0.05 level of significance, light face bold type, 0.01 level of significance, bold face type. So this was 0.05 based on our problem. So 2 and 12, so 3.89. So that's our F statistic versus like our F obtained value. Does that make sense so far, guys? Else? Keep in mind that the F distribution is positively skewed. It begins at 0 and is skewed toward positive values. So the critical value for tests is placed in the upper tail. Negative outcomes are not possible in an F distribution. There's just an upper tail. That's why you can't do it. FYI, the null hypothesis for an ANOVA states that group means in the population do not vary. The alternative hypothesis states that group means in the population do vary. 4 assumptions for a one-way between subjects ANOVA are normality, so bell curve, random sampling, independence, and homogeneity of variance. The rejection region is always located in the upper tail of the F distribution, so the critical value is always positive. All right, example 1. Employee turnover is a common concern among businesses and organizational psychologists. I used to work at a very toxic organization where literally the stairwell smelled like weed and people would drink pints on their lunch break. It was the culture. Yeah. Oh, I can't confirm or deny where that was. Oh, you go on LinkedIn, you'll figure it out. I'm not that old. So kind of offended. I'm older than some of you, a lot. Some of you, I'm close to your age. I'm not that old. So.
Are they hiring part-time, Professor?
Ooh. That place?
Yeah.
Probably. It's in California.
I guess we're packing it up and moving.
I cannot confirm or deny if I ever had a couple pints at that place during lunch break and went back. But hypothetically, pleading the fifth, the job's easier after a couple pints in the afternoon. Just saying. Not advocating going to work that way. I'm just hypothetically speaking. But if you're immersed in the culture, it's really hard to break. Because the managers and directors and the employees all did that. So
Technically, you aren't doing anything wrong if the bosses are doing it too.
technically. So stress levels at workplace are often cited as a key reason for increased employee turnover. Maybe why the stairwell smelled like weed, which is they were trying to cope, which is the rate at which employees leave a company, thereby impacting costs needed to hire new employees. As an example, one such study of research, suppose we ask new employees at a company how long they feel they will remain with the company. Employees are assigned to groups based on how stressful they rated the workplace. 10 employees rated the company as a high stress workplace, 10 moderately successful, and 10 as low stress. Time and years that employees said they would stay with the company are given below. We will conduct an analysis of variance to analyze the significance of these data at a 0.05 level of significance. The time and years that employees said they would stay with the company among employees that rated the workplace as being a high, moderate, or low stress work environment. So these are how they rated. 10 said low, 10 said moderate, 10 said high. N1 is 10, N2 is 10, N3 is 10. What's large N based on what I've said so far? What would large N be based on what N1, N2, and N3 are? No, the number. What's the number of large N?
Would it be all 30?
It'd be 30. Nailed it. Yeah, it'd be 30. Yep. So step one, we're going to state the hypotheses. The null hypothesis states that group means in the population do not vary. Variance is 0. The alternative hypothesis states group means in the population do vary. Variance is greater than 0. You can write it shorthand like this. Null hypothesis H sub 0 is equal to 0. Group means do not vary between groups in the employee population. Group means do vary between groups in the employee population. Set the criteria for the decision. The level of significance for this test is 0.05. The degrees of freedom between groups are k minus 1. So 3 minus 1 is 2. Everybody with me so far? That degrees of freedom for error n minus k, 30 minus 3, 27. Does that make sense so far? Okay. To locate the critical value for our ANOVA with 2 and 27 degrees, which we just figured out, we're going to look at our table, which is over here, and we're going to get 3.35. Is that right? 2 and 27 degrees, 3.35. That's our F statistic. So we're just going to write that down somewhere. The region for the upper tail is the rejection region for this test. We will compare the value of the test statistic with this critical value. So we're going to do the F obtained value ultimately against the F statistic. If the value of the test statistic falls beyond the critical value at or greater than 3.35, we reject the null hypothesis, otherwise we retain the null hypothesis. So we're going to start with the simple version and then get into the more complex version. But if you follow the steps, it's very doable. Step 3, compute the test statistic. We compute the F statistic to determine the total variance attributed to the difference between groups, means relative to the variance attributed to error. Thus, the test statistic is the variance between groups, MSBG, divided by the variance for error, MS squared. 2 divided by 27.074. Therefore, we retain the null hypothesis because it's smaller than 3.35. Can you do the same thing we just did with this data? Give it a shot. I would say on your own for 5 or 10 minutes or so. Ask questions if you get stuck, and then we'll walk through it as a group. It should literally just be the steps above. But like I said, if you get stuck, just talk to me. Well, that's awesome. Slick roads and 50-mile-an-hour winds. At least it's not dull.
It's not frozen.
Yeah.
Soft rain falling down. I really don't want to get this.
At least it's not.
Soft, kind of frozen rain that's not sleet.
So don't think about that much because you'll jinx it. No piensas mucho. Well, you guys are doing that. I think I'm gonna put my jacket on and grab the textbook with the SPSS like steps. It's not the right book. Yeah, I need the hard one. Cause that's like way more thorough, and then there's not a difference in page numbers. So I'm just gonna go to the car, grab the book, I'll be right back down. And then I'll help you guys and we'll walk through it as a group, but I want to give you a few minutes to give it a shot on your own, just like learning happens. Yeah, I created them that way on purpose so that it can be incredibly simple and easy to do.
Okay.
But pay attention to your data because it is not identical.
Yeah.
And I will be literally back in like a minute or two tops.
It's the same.
Wait, are you on the first do on your own or?
Yeah. the same.
Yeah, let's say ask.
You guys want to let me get the material, right? Yeah, if you copy and paste, you'll probably get the steps right. I also have the ways when I explain it'd be easy just to make sure I don't miss anything, so.
It's easy.
It's really easy, and this is sort of like the shorthand version. We're gonna get into like the intermediate steps and all that next. You guys are still working, right? Okay, I'm gonna take a very quick bio break. I'll be right back. It's not walking itself this time. That's a parent there. I'm going on. That's a parent. My college buddy from undergrad, wow. He doesn't know any better. We could just shut the phone off, maybe. Sorry about that, guys. We'll break concentration.
Good copy. I'm not angry, like, this is actually a thing, and that is not seeing exactly. I'm scared to put my laptop on. This is not me. Leave me, my 1, 2, 3 movies alone. Turn that stuff now. Yeah. You can act like right.
I heard that before. Huh? I heard that before. I remember it again. I don't think that we didn't look like that. What's chapter 10?
Yeah, I can't remember, do we, multiply it by itself? For the first step, do we multiply the score by itself before we divide or after? 'Cause I remember last chapter, I got a bit confused about it.
I'm done.
Yeah. Alright, so it's this and then 2,000. For 10.
Yeah, is this time?
Yeah, I did that. Okay. No, I just want to see the upload. You sent me 2 files.
I thought it was just one.
How's it going?
Going.
Should we walk through it, or are you guys still working? Still working? Okay, a few more minutes.
Do we,
Yeah.
for step 1, do we,
No, it is.
do we multiply by itself before or after we divide?
I think you have to multiply.
No, it's because it's to the second power. So.
Wait a second, wait a second. What do you mean? Example 2? Oh, that, we're not there yet. And I'm gonna use Excel to like, not, cheat's the wrong word, but like to be quick, I'm gonna use Excel. And there's an Excel file that has this in it. We're just doing the second example, this one. So we have example 1, and then we're doing the one that you just apply those steps to. Don't do the other one's complicated. We'll walk through it. It's not that hard, but there's like several steps. Like probably 5 to 7. I was gonna say 12 would be sarcastic, but there's not 12. There's just a lot of steps, okay? If you guys have done this one, I'll walk through it, but I wanted you guys to try it before we walk through it so that the information sticks.
Yeah, I have a question. So I got 36 minus 3 is 33, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where it doesn't go up to 33, so how do you find that I can tell? unless
Are you
I'm
sure?
looking at it?
I think it does. Well, there's 33 right there. Keep going.
Oh. I was on my page, sorry.
That's okay.
I was going back and forth through the back of my pages. To the front.
There's valuable electronic and paper. Sometimes they crisscross and doesn't work.
In the degrees of freedom are 2, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it would be 3.28.
If you have statistic, and then if you got 5.31, what does that tell us? If you did your math right. What? Mm-hmm. If it's greater, you retain if it's inside, yeah. Like the same thing we've been doing all term, you got it. Two divided by 33. Approximately. So, yeah, 2 and 33, so that'd be a retain. So that's less. So what you all got? Does that make sense? Did I do my math right? Roll. 2 and 33, right? 2 divided by 33.61, less than 3.28 or 3.35, whatever I wrote down. Is it 3.28 or 3.35? Yeah, I rounded. You're right. Yeah. Yeah. Is actually 0.606 like that. So you can round it to 0.61, or you could do that. I would take either, like that would be okay. Usually we're gonna go like 2, 3 decimal places tops. So because it's greater than, is that right? It was 2 divided by, did I do that? Yeah. So technically it was 0.06, 06. So I could back that up. And this would basically become a 1, or we just round like that. But 0.06 would be right. Does that make sense, Bree? Everybody else? So we retain the null hypothesis. All right. Are you guys ready to dive in? Get ready to go down the rabbit hole. Okay. And think about analogies like Dorothy, Wizard of Oz. Like we're gonna dive pretty deep tonight, okay? So there's many different ways to compute a mean square. We describe this analysis in 4 stages: preliminary calculations, intermediate calculations, computing the sum of the square, and completing the F table. Preliminary calculations, we're going to find the sum of x1, total x, the second power x, which are these. But I have the Excel sheet from earlier that you all have access to, hopefully. And that's this. This should be the right one. Yeah. So I believe, yeah. So we had low, moderate, and high, 3.4, 3.5, and 2.9. Is that the same table? Yes. So what we did is, enable editing, is if we took the table in could we agree that this is the right table? Just none of this stuff. I'm gonna walk through this. I'm just saying, does this look like what's on Word? I'm gonna shut her door because she's way too long. Does this just this much of the table make sense? Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to do some squaring. So what I did 7, is it right? Is I squared it. So for me, and you can do it however you want for your table, I took C7. I took and I squared the low ones to the left right here. That's what all these numbers are. So every one of these is just times itself right here. Okay. And then I took the moderate and I squared it to the left as well. So all these, if you were to multiply them by themselves, you would get those. And then I took the high and I squared it like this for each one of those values. Do y'all want me to show you how to do that in Excel? Do y'all remember how to do that? Let's just do the squaring. It's equals the cell number, shift the 6 key, and then 2 to the second power. Your formula would look something like that, for example. Is that loud enough for you guys to see it? Yeah. I'm saying, okay, this happens to be G9. Take this, do it to the second power. Now, once you do one formula for one column, you should be able to fill down and get that. And if you all want to take a moment to do that before I explain these numbers, go right ahead.
They're in their sheet though.
But they're in the sheet. So it's whatever works for you guys. If you're just like following along and it makes sense, I'm not trying to give you guys extra work. I'm trying to actually condense it, but you want to know how to do this if you had to build it from scratch. So then what I did for these, for this one, is I said, tell me the sum of all of these. That's our x1 squared, our sum of our x1. So I'm just summing these. Our next one, this right here, B17. That was the sum of all these squares. Okay. This one is the sum of these 33 is the sum of all the moderate. That's just the sum of the x second value. So we're conceptualizing it like the sum of the x like that, like to the second group. We're also doing the sum of the second group squared and the sum of the first group squared on these columns. That's what those are. Like this says the sum of the second of this. This is the sum of the squares for group 1. This is the sum of the squares for group 2. This is the sum of the values here. This is the sum of the squares. Then we also look at, so, and the same thing, sum of the squares, sum of the squares. This is the sum of the this is the sum total. So this is the sum of each. So that's like this, that number, and that number to get 97.1. This is the sum of all the squares total, left to right, for the total. Do all my squares and my sums and totals make sense, or should we walk through anything that you see there? The problem with Excel is I had to use letters, not always like the Greek stuff, because it's hard to get that in Excel.
I think the letters make it easier.
Okay. So here, guys. This is that right here. This is literally what you're looking at. That should be that.
Oh, wow.
Okay, and maybe that might help. That's what we're gonna walk through. You can hang on to that, but I want to make sure everybody's on the same page. Zoom folks, I know you can't see that. If you want to take a copy of that, whatever's gonna make that easy for you guys, for that to make sense. And then we'll actually start to do the steps. Yeah, I'll pass it around. Sorry, Zoom folks. If you were in class, which I know it's cold, I know why you wanted to do Zoom, it's totally okay. I can't really show that to you guys. We can tell you what figure it is, maybe. What is it, like 12.2 or something? 12.52. Figure 12.5 should be the same even in the newer textbook or real close to that figure. I know I have it in my book. I think you have it in your book. If you want to take a screenshot or you want to compare that against this sheet, that's fine. I wrote this up by hand the first time I taught it. And it didn't really, the math doesn't really change year to year, so. You want to see what that is? So you're literally looking at, this is that Excel sheet. In terms of what they're calculating. You saw? You mean to see that? Everybody has never seen this, right? Does that kind of make sense or help give you more context? 12.4 in the newer book. Okay. So I calculated that. So the next thing we're going to do, unless you all wanted the moment to adjust that, we're going to find K and N. We have 3 groups, so K is 3. And we have 10 participants in each group, so lowercase n is 10. N1, basically N2, N3. Make sense so far? Okay. We're going to find all these sums, which we just did with Excel, and I gave to you, and I gave you the example in the book. So we're going to skip that. Now, the next thing we're going to do are the intermediate calculations. You have to do the order of operations. You have to do lots of brackets, or you might get some wonky numbers. If numbers don't match mine, redo it, and make sure you're doing like all the numerator against all the denominator. That's typically where the numbers get wonky. So first, we compute a correction factor by squaring the grand total and divided by the total sample size n. So 1, and that 1 is a label. That's not like a multiplication. It's just like step 1 is this. This is the intermediate calculations. The intermediate calculations, if you're wondering, guys, that's directly below. That's what I'm looking at. You wanted to see that. You see this? We're doing these calculations right here, same math, that order. We're going to segue towards this.
It's a different building.
It's in 12.4. 12.4. But we're literally going to do this, this, and this all the way to the F of Kane value, step by step. And I'll bring that over by you guys in a moment. Or 12.4. You still need this front row. Just check on those. So we're literally going to do these steps in this order with the same exact math. This is also 12.4. So you or anybody needs to take a picture, that's fine. That's literally what I'm going to walk you through. But if you want to see like the intermediate steps. And it's going to be 12.4, guys, for literally the math we're going to do right now is literally going to be this, this, then this, all the way to the F of Kane value, and then we're going to compare it against. Maybe it's not 12.4, but it's definitely this math. Yeah, those are definitely the right steps. Or you can do it without having to look up here. So that would be 97.10 squared divided by 30. Does everyone know where those numbers came from? Does that make sense? Second, so this is just a label, 2. We divide the sum of the squares scored in each group by the sample size in each group. The sum of the x squared over n, but it's more like, you almost want to think of it like rows, okay? This divided by 10, like this number right here, plus this number with the division, plus this number, you should get approximately 3.35, 315.35. And you could probably add each of the squares to each other and divide by 30 and get the same number, but I would just be careful doing that because I don't want you to get the wrong number. You guys want to check the math on that or to take my word on that before I go to the next step? You were just to save time? Okay, fair. All right. What, you guys don't want to do extra work? I mean, you want to work smarter rather than harder? I get you. So third, we restate the sum of the squares in all groups combined, which we calculated before. So this is 3 a label. The sum of x squared total is 319.47. That's this. So that should read like this. I'm not sure where that 0.2 there. That's a typo. It should have that. We can then use these values to compute the sum of the squares for each source of the variation in the ANOVA. The sum of the squares is the numerator for variance. Hence, the calculations we make at stage 3 will give us the numerator in the formula for variance for each source of variation. Stage 3, computing the sum of the squares for each source of variation. The sum of the squares between groups SSBG is the difference between calculation 2 and calculation 1. So technically it's 2 minus 1. And if we go up here, we already have 2 minus 1. We know that 2 was 315.35 and 1 was 314.28. So we plug that in, 315.35 minus 314.28, we get 1.07. Everybody with me so far? Then the sum of the squares total is the difference between calculation 3 and calculation 1. Difference meaning subtraction. So 3 minus 1, we have that. 3, which is the 319.47 minus 314.28, we get 5.19. And then just delete that row because that's like repeated twice. So then we're going to do the sum of the squares error is the sum of the squares total minus the sum of the squares between groups. Sum of the squares error is equal to sum of the squares total minus the sum of the squares between groups. We have that. We just calculated that. Sum of the squares between groups. Total, right? Sum of the squares total minus sum of the squares between groups. So we have the total 5.19 minus 1.07 between groups, 4.12. Makes sense so far? So completing the F table. The F table lists the sum of the squares, degrees of freedom, and the mean square and the value of the test statistic. The calculations formulas also are shown below. The first column of the F table lists the sum of the squares. We computed the sum of the squares at stage 3. The second column lists the degrees of freedom. We computed the degrees of freedom in step 2. We use these values to compute the mean squares for the test statistic. The formula for the variance is the sum of the squares divided by the degrees of freedom. So we divide across each row to compute each mean square. So between groups, 1.07, within groups, 4.12, total 5.19. Literally just listing what we came up with. Everybody with me so far on the table? Degrees of freedom, k minus 1 is 2. Because we had 3, because there was 3 groups. 3 minus 1 is 2. N minus k, 30 minus 3, 27. N minus 1, 29. 30 minus 1. But the 2 and the 27 will also equal 29 for filling the table in. Because we have the between groups, within groups, which is the error, not within, and then your total. Make sense so far? So over here, we have the formulas. So the mean square between groups. So to compute the variance of the mean square between groups, we divide the sum of the squares between groups right here, divided by the degrees of freedom between groups. 1.07 divided by 2. Does everyone see where those numbers came from? We get 0.0535. Likewise, to compute the variance or mean square error, we divide the sum of the square error by the degrees of freedom error. 4.12 divided by 27 is equal to 0.0152. I think it's like that. If you guys want to check the math, that would be fine. Do the numbers make sense so far? The formula for the test statistic, mean square between groups, 0.0535, divided by the mean square error, 0.0152. F obtained value is equal to mean square between groups, divided by mean square error, 0.0535, divided by 0.0152 is equal to 3.52. Does that make sense so far?
The 535.
I just calculated that it's right here. Does that make sense? If I'm losing, you just tell me, I'll walk through it slower or a different way. So the mean square error, 3.52. So now here's the table again. And I have these. And then I also have the F obtained value, which was this last piece of math, and I filled in my table. An asterisk next to the F statistic indicates a decision to reject a null hypothesis. That's why we have this. So make a decision, we compare the value to the critical value. The obtained value, 3.52, is greater than critical value, 3.35. So it falls in the rejection region. Remember, if it's right at or beyond, it's rejection. Now, do the same steps with this set of data, but know that I do have a bunch of the math done for you over here, because of course, these right here are the squares, these two columns of the low, moderate, and high. And then this last square is the high. So it's like to the right. And we'll double check our 3.4, 2.9. Yeah. So I already did the math here for you guys. I'll even put your ends in there. So you should have all the pieces to basically walk through the steps and try it on your own. And then we'll do it as a class and see if your math adds up. This might take a few minutes to go through. If you guys want to work together or talk to each other, it's 100% fine.
I have a set, what, no, because I remember last chapter, I got it wrong when I tried to do it to the second power. So do I add it to the second power before I divide it or after?
It would be before, and then you would divide it. That should actually make the most sense.
Is that that's me up the thing on chapter 11?
It should be, because if we look right, if we scroll back up, it should be the numerator. But what you can also do, Bree, is you can take something like when you're doing like this, for example, you can pull up a scientific calculator and you can plug it in that way with extra brackets, and it should do it right for you. But it should be the square, the division, like with this one, the square and the division, and then like 3 separate numbers, and that should get you there because, yeah. Yeah, that should work. Yep. So I didn't do all of the calculations, but I did some of the squaring to save you guys time. I think the order of operations might have messed you up.
Yeah, that's what happened last chapter, where I did it like the way we're doing it now, but I kept getting the wrong answer.
Yeah, it should be the square on the top and then the division. And that should get you the right answer. But because we have the answer sheet, at least on the examples, you can always cross-reference it or check it if there's something wonky that isn't happening. They're really good, Bree.
The division of the sum of squares in each group by the sample size.
That seems right. I don't have an answer key. I think that's right, though. Want to show me? Should I come over there?
I don't know. Calculator all I can do. So I just did all of these first and then equaled it and then divided it by 36. And that's what I got.
That makes sense.
I mean, this is what I got.
15.35. Oh, it's 122.
Yeah.
I think that's right. You could be sure if you did, you square this and divide it, and they get the number and square it, but that should still be the same. Because it's ultimately the numerator divided by the not, and that should still make sense. I'll do it too. I'll calculate it on my side. Well, it's only 3 problems. And the SPSS, we are actually pacing just fine. All right, so I'm gonna move that, and I'm gonna start working through the math on my own, and then when I catch up to you, Bree. All right, so we did that. Okay, so that's gonna be not 9710, that's gonna be, which one is it? That is gonna be 114.7 divided by 36. So that should be 114.7 divided by 36. So did you get 365 point, for your first one, you should have 365.45 approximately for the first one, not the second one.
I got 365.45.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I have. Because I rounded, yep. Second, so we're gonna take these numbers need to change. These are all gonna be 12s. And then also the way you know is like they should all add up to the highest number too. Collectively is like a way to work backwards, and then you know you're probably doing the math right. So 34.30, so it's 40.1. So it should be 40.1 squared. 39.1. 39.1 squared. And 35.5 squared. And then our new number should be 40.1 times 41 divided by 12. So we have 134 plus, I think your math might be wrong on the second part, Bree. 39.1 times 39.1 divided by 12 plus 127.40. I'm doing each one divided by the number 35.5 times 35.5. 1260.25 divided by 12. 105. Yeah, I think that number's wrong. 105.02 plus 127.4 plus 134. You should get 366. This should all be 366.42. And I listed the numbers that I got for each one of these directly below it. And then we're going to restate the sum of the squares in all groups combined. So 319. So it's 372.95. So this is going to be 372.95. And then we're going to start subtracting them. So 2 minus 1, 366.42 minus 365. So 366 0.42 minus 365. 365.5, is that right? That poor 5. So that would be a new number, probably similar, but not identical. 366.42 minus 365.97. 0.97. If you rounded, it would be 1. I probably wouldn't round yet. Remember, it's 2 minus 1. And then our is 3 minus 1. So these numbers are going to change. So it's 3. 3 is 372.95 minus 1, which is 365.45. So we should have a new number. 372.95 minus 365.45. That's 7.5. Sorry, 3 minus 1. 3 was that. And 1 was, yeah, that makes sense. Okay. And then the sum of the squares total minus sum of the squares between groups. So that should be 7.5 minus 0.097. 0.97. This number should be new. So 7.5 minus 0.97, 6.53. So then we need to change this. So this, our total is going to be 7.5 within, is that the within error? Some of the squares. Was that? I deleted the extra equation with you guys. The top one, delete the top one on the example. There's a step up here with the example that I caught as I was explaining it to you guys. This one's right. There was one other one up here that I deleted while I was talking to you guys. So if you see this twice right before it's 4, then just delete the one that's up here. The sum of the squares total, I think. No, the sum of the squares error. Yeah, you're right. Sum of the square, there's 2 of them. The first one's not right. The second one's accurate. The sum of the squares error. So, yep, you got it. Yep. 7.6. Between groups. 0.97.
Okay. 7.
That's what I got. If I did my math wrong, to talk to me. K minus 1. That's right. Minus K minus 12, so 36. That would be 33. And this would be 35. 35. And then the sum. So now we're going to take. Okay, that's right. So now we're going to divide these into, so this one's going to be 0.97. It's going to be 0.97 divided by 2. And that's that first number. 0.97 divided by 2. That's 0.485. Then we're going to take 6.53. We're divide that by 33. 6.53 divided by 33. That's going to be numbers like 6.53 divided by 33. is gonna be 0.197 or 198. If we rounded, it'd be the same. And then we're gonna take these two numbers and divide them by each other. So that's gonna be the 0.485 divided by 0.198, 0.485 divided by 0.198, 2.44, 2.44. And then these numbers we need to change. This one's going to be 33. It's going to be 35. This is going to be 6.53. This is going to be 0.97. It's going to be 7.5. This is going to be 7.5. This is going to be 0.0485. This is going to be 0.198. This is going to be 2.44. And we have 2 and 33. We look up our F score. 2 and 33, 3.28. So 3.28 would be we retain. Right, because that was, I think they're reversed, right? That's that. Let's go back to the top. 3.52, because it was greater than 3.28. This was, yep. So it's reject. So this is retain. So because 2.44 is lower, we're going to get rid of the asterisk because that means we're going to retain the null hypothesis. Did everybody get there? Or should I walk through that? So we have the 0.485 divided by 0.198, which is 2.44 for our F obtained value. Because we divided this by this. And we divided that by this to get this, that by this to get this. We don't really do anything with this, okay?
Okay,
And then we took this divided by that to get this. And when we looked it up with the degrees of freedom, it was the 3.28. So because this is inside curve, we retain the null hypothesis. It's not outside the critical value, it's below it.
okay, so step 4, what are the numbers? So let's make a decision of the value. What would be those numbers?
So we compared to the obtained value is 3.28, right? And the is greater than, no, the obtained value is 2.44. The critical value is 3.28. It falls in the retain region, if you want to think of it that way. I mean, or decision would be to do that. And then we're going to do some SPSS, and then I have notes, and that's literally the deep dive worksheet. And if that all made sense to you, the publisher one's way easier, and then some SPSS stuff, review, etc. It's just a little bit after 7. We're actually pacing quite wonderfully. So 12.8. Made. You guys are ready? Should we dive into SPSS? I'm thinking we'll do the SPSS, maybe take a short break if you guys need it, then come back, publish a worksheet, which should go pretty fast, just literally look at F scores. And then we'll dive into the SPSS that we haven't done on like 1 or 2 worksheets. And then what's left is like literally like the review worksheet and maybe another worksheet or 2. So.
Yeah.
So you want to open up SPSS? You can say new data set, that's fine. You should have something looking like this. And then you want this data right here. That data I took, by the way, if you're wondering, I hid the rows and then I cut and pasted that directly into SPSS. So we got to make this look a little bit cleaner. So we're going to click on variable view. And we're going to make the rows like 0, okay? And that's going to just do that for us. Is that right? Reduce the value to 0. Wait, hang on. Groups in the name column, variable view. So we're going to say groups. We're going to say groups like that, groups. Go to decimals column. Okay, so I think what we need to do for this to work is we're going to do file, new, data. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these one by one because I think that makes more sense. So instead, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to go grab the other next 10. So they're all in one column, then the directions I'm giving you guys will make more sense. Right here, like that. And right here, like this. And then we're going to go like that. And then we're going to do variable view.
Can you let us copy that first one?
Yep. Hang on. These should be like that. These are the numbers right here. These numbers. You want to take a picture. I don't know why Android plays a buddy mine times, and I try to work it out. That's fine. These are the numbers that I'm pulling over from, if you're wondering, by the way. And then I won't do the steps there in the book, but it's these numbers or the one on your worksheet. This is literally those numbers right there. We're putting into SPSS, but in one row, not in like several rows.
Okay.
That's what you're looking at right here. I haven't changed the decimals. So it's these numbers right here, in that one row column, or from your Excel. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna click on the variable view tab and we're gonna enter groups in the name column. So we're just gonna go GROUP. We're gonna type in the word groups like that, and we're gonna change our decimals down to 0. Then we're gonna click on the label, which I can wait for you guys to just do that step. So you just want groups. So you want one row of all of them. Your row should have changed to look like this because we just have whole numbers. We've changed our decimals to 0. We type the word groups in the name column for the first row in the variable view tab, which is down here. When you get to that point, maybe give me a thumbs up or something so I know everybody at least in the class and or on Zoom is there. And then we'll do the next couple of steps, which actually go pretty quickly. And then we'll have our one-way ANOVA. Can you guys let me know when you're at this point? Are you? Are you, Brent? Ethan, are you up to the spot? Or are you still?
Find for some reason my SPSS on my computer.
They are on all the other, on these, if that helps. Sure, Sydney. Yeah, I can probably do that on break. I'll do that. That should be pretty easy. Yeah, that's done, Sydney. I got you. I just did that right now. Okay, that's no problem. All right, so our next thing we're going to do is we're going to click here where it says values, and we're going to get a nice pop-up. So you want to put the cursor over the values in the variable view tab. You get a nice 3 stars. You're going to click this, and we're going to click the plus button, and we're going to label groups. So we're going to say low. We say value 1, label low. We're going to add another one. We're going to say 2. Label is going to be moderate. Label 3. That's going to be high, like that. And once you've done that in that box, you want to click on OK. So you want to click on the variable view tab. So this is your, so this is here. So you have your data view right here with those numbers, variable view here. Values, you have a nice little thing right here. You click that, you get a pop-up, and then you get the plus button, put 1, 2, and 3 on the values, and then you're going to label them as low, moderate, and high. This would be essentially coding variables for your vernacular. We're just like labeling them so we can work with them.
Click OK, it'll just be up top like that, where you can't see the moderate.
Yeah, if I just click OK, it just disappears. But if I click on it again, I know it's there because I've already done it. So if you want to make sure that you've done it, you just click again. And if you look, it's kind of hard to see, but if I were to like make this bigger, it would do nothing. But you can see it says 1 low and so on. And then as soon as I click on the box, it tells me what that sort of that extension is. Wait a second, does that make sense? Oh, okay. All right, so then what we're gonna do is we're gonna say length right here in the variable view tab, or make this 0. Like that. And we want the value, we want the decimals to be 1. And technically it's going to be, these should be over here. All you got to do is Control X, Control V. It's real easy.
Yeah, but you were first in variable view, right, to put the length and,
Yep.
okay. Making sure.
So what you should have is this is what your variable view looks like. So oh, I got you. Sorry, Sydney. No problem. Exam 3 final review. Okay, I gotcha. I gotcha. I'm going to do that right now. Spring student resources, in-class activities. Exam 3 done. Spring, fall, student resources, in-class. Exam 3 final review. Make available.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I got you. Final review. Make available.
Okay.
Exam 3 final review. Edit. Edit. Mark. Mark. Browse. There. Open. Submit. There we go. There you go, Sydney. We're good. So you should, if you're following along on SPSS, this is what you're welcome. Your variable view should look like. Your data row should look like that. So the value, I know I said initially one column. If you did that accidentally, all you gotta do is highlight the whole thing with your left mouse, Control C, put the cursor up here at the top, and do Control V and it'll paste them for you.
I have different numbers. I don't know why.
I'm not sure why.
I don't have any ones.
Your group should be 1 through 10, 2, 11 through 20, 21 through 33, and then your length should be the numbers that I showed you guys in your textbook. Does everyone have this much? Or I can walk through it some more.
Copying all of the low, moderate, and high.
Into one column. So you can take that out of the Excel sheet if you want to. Step by step, you already have it in SPSS. I was mistaken. I thought it was that first row. It's actually the second column.
So I should start low first and then.
Yeah, do low, moderate, high in terms of like the list. And then the length, you're going to label them 1, 2, and 3 for the values. But just make sure you have them in the correct column. Don't flip them because it won't really work that way. You want me to go over to you and look, Dorothy?
I copied, like, what, kind of picture, but I don't have 33. See,
No, you shouldn't have.
I should have 30.
You have 30, that's
Oh, okay, okay.
I can't zoom in.
That's
tiny.
No, you're good. I don't know what I saw. I think I was looking at the 3.3. Okay, cool. But I didn't have the ones in the 2, so I just changed them.
Tell me when you guys are ready to do the math. I want to make sure all this all has to be incorrect or it won't work. No.
Oh, the variable view just.
Sure, so you can see it. This is what you should have for both columns.
Okay.
Okay.
got it.
So now, the fun stuff, we're gonna go like this, and we're gonna do compare means and proportions. And we're gonna do a one-way ANOVA, like this. You want those options. It doesn't matter if you're in variable or data view, but you want those options on your ribbon. Analyze, compare means and proportions, one-way ANOVA. Once you do that, you get a nice pop-up. You're gonna put length on the dependent list and groups on the factor, like that. Now you can move them like this, like dragging. Or you can also say groups, I want you over here, length, I want you over here with the arrows, but that's what you want to get to. Now, once you've done that, in case the exam were to ask you LSD or Tukey, there's a way to tell this is like your post hoc comparisons. You click post hoc and you can literally just click, this is the least square difference in the Tukey. If it asks you to run that, it'll give you more data. For the purpose of the worksheet, I'm not lecturing to like that. And it's just easier if you do that with the software. If you didn't want those, you could just cancel out of that and then you just click OK. And now we have our lovely table right there.
So you uncheck the.
Yeah. Now, if I wanted to, I could go back and I could say, you know what? Give me the least square difference and Tukey by doing one-way ANOVA. I would keep those there. I would click post hoc and I would just say, give me this and give me this, continue, okay. And now further down, I have all of these. But since our primary focus has just been this, I thought that was the most important piece. It's got our ETA squared, omega squared. I mean, it does a bunch of stuff for us automatically, but as you can see, this table that we just did by hand, that's like way faster. But you got to make sure you enter the data right, otherwise it doesn't work. And that's not really a feature of Excel. You can do a lot of stuff in Excel, but you can do way more with SPSS. Yeah, for the class and just if you're geeking out and you're working with stats in the future, you probably want access to SPSS.
Okay, this is what we save and turn. in.
Yep, and then just save both files, save the SAV file, .sav extension, that's your data file, and .spv is your like chart file, and submit them both. Then I can say, okay, you've done the graph, I can see it, and you've done the output file. And then that's literally the worksheet. There's some notes, and then it's the secondary worksheet, like the one with the publisher, and then like the SPSS stuff that we skipped. Should we take a 5 or 10 minute break and then come back to the other two worksheets? We'll probably finish right on time, and or we can start segueing into the review, or our time next week can just be the review worksheet. So
We take a few minute break.
yeah, should we say 10? So it's 7:42, like 7:50, take the full 10. Wow, you still have the wires. Wow.
I like wired overhead ones.
Oh,
I believe it's that.
yeah, that's fair.
The thing is, I lost a cushion to one of the ears, so that's great. And I'm glad the Apple headphones I have, they're so old, so chewed up, they still work. So I'm happy about them.
Logan, I must have overlooked your email. I was not trying to ignore you.
It's a big fucking night.
12, no, I'm responding to that. You're good. You're good. We're not doing chapters 13 through 17. We're just doing through 12. WebAssign never got fixed. And you're gonna have to email Ernest on SPSS. I'm not sure why it's not working. I think that's all your questions. I will work with you. Yeah, we are doing the exercises 9 through 11. Yeah, we did. We did those like last week. I posted that. And the worksheet I just made available, we're gonna do that this class or next class. When you guys come back, we're gonna do the publisher worksheet, which I have the answer sheet for, it should go pretty quick. It's just really looking up stuff in the tables. And then we're gonna do the SPSS, which I think was chapter 8 off the top of my head that we skipped last time. And then that's probably our class, approximately for the next 40 minutes or so.
Can you come look at my SPSS real quick?
Yeah.
I just got, I think I have all the numbers in, but I missed like that last
What does it do?
part.
This one?
Forgot what.
Oh, so click on variable view.
I'm 12.
No, that's a yes.
Okay, so you don't,
It's relative to how.
you don't know those extra variables in there. I don't know if it's illegal or not. It should still work, but groups length.
That's like user mean,
Yeah,
so I can.
I'll send it to you.
yeah, you may or not. Oh, it does, okay. Go back to variable view. And make your measure, scale on your far right.
Yes.
Try ordinal. Not to give you scale. Okay. Was there another option on measure? No, just ordinal. Okay, that's weird. All right. And then this should say groups. The first one is group, the second one is
Oh, yeah.
the length of the groups. And then your decimals for groups for length should be,
Yeah.
actually, I think it's groups and then length. I think I transposed that on you. Group and then length. It should look like this.
No, that's-
Yeah.
Yeah, groups and then length like that. Make sure your decimal on the length is 1
Okay.
versus
No, it's just
0.
read. That one? This one?
Group,
Yeah,
and then
let me, like switch them at the same time.
yeah, no worries. And then length. Okay. All right, and then, oh, with your type. Can you make your type? Click on this. Tell it numeric. Say okay. Make this one numeric. So, okay, change to this scale. Make that, make a whole scale. Okay, and now click on analyze on either screen, it shouldn't matter, right here. Compare means and proportions, one, one with the, one way and one. And then you're gonna put groups on the factor and the length. Yeah. And then length right there, and then just click okay. No, we just no. Go back, go analyze. Switch those, I think I might have said that back. Fair means and proportions. One way and one. No, that's right. So you have groups numeric. Oh, you didn't do the values. I think you skipped this step. That's why I didn't do it. I can show you
No, I
that.
think I did that.
You should have that.
I think the one thing that's screwed up is I'll have to,
Can you go back to your, click on window. And then go back into the untitled.
what I need to do is just write.
Okay, yeah.
So I need to do it here.
No, you shouldn't have to. Now if you click on analyze. Should work. Compare means, go away, ANOVA. Yeah, that should be it. Just click okay. Scroll down because it's gonna give you the most recent. Hold on. That's not working. Oh, your numbers make sense. I think you added something wrong. Oh, we've got variable view. Oh, first of all, there's a couple things going on. Data, you're missing a data point here. That's not helping you with this. Here, yeah. I can show you that number. it should look like this. You're missing something. On your data tab.
Oh, I know, I think maybe because I have all ones.
That's what, there's nothing for it to sort it for. That's why, because it's first tenor one, second tenor two, third tenor three.
Yeah.
And there's no groups to sort, and that's why it's telling you there's no value. Does the vending machine work? If I want something cold and wet to drink. Oh, all right. Oh, that's kind of what is it? Is it soda? Soda water. Oh, I might be down if you don't. Oh, I'll say. We're looking at another 100 years. Was that? Oh, really? Hmm. Nice.
In the variable group, I
Mhm.
lost my, I don't know why I didn't save my SAV. In the variable group, was it the top groups that we did the label? Low, moderate?
Yeah, it's right here. It should look like that.
Yeah. I don't know what happened, it didn't save my, the save file, it saved the other one, but. I don't know what
So you can click on window. If you still have it open, and you gotta save
happened.
it from.
I closed it.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it. Right, I think most of you all work full time, so you need the night class, so for it to actually work. I need a night class so I can have the best of both worlds. I know the material's dense, but I feel like generally we have a good time walking through it. I hope we are. I know the material's dense. Okay, different teacher, that's fair. I can't change the material, but I try my best to make it fun
Material is the only thing that's not.
and digestible. I know it's dense, I get it. The first time I taught the class, it was a struggle because it was rusty and there was some new stuff I had to learn that I had to teach myself to teach to you guys. But now I've been doing it for a few years, like now it's easier, it's way easy because I've seen it a ton of times.
Saving as a SAV, but it's saving on the computer as SPV.
That's the same thing.
It's weird,
I'll take the SPV file if that'll help you.
but it's not like the one I need.
If I can see you created the table, I'll make that work. Screenshot was work. As long as I can read it. If you do some weird off the wall format and I can't load it on my computer, that's a problem. But if I can see that you've done it, that's fine. So I'll explain the stuff we just talked about, and then we'll dive into the worksheet, okay? So when an ANOVA is significant, you can conduct a post hoc test, which is what we were doing with the Tukey and the LSD. I'm literally just reading off the worksheet. That's all I'm doing. When the ANOVA is significant, you can conduct a post hoc test to determine which pair or pair of groups means significantly differ. When the ANOVA is not significant, stop, no group means statistically differ. Experiment-wise, alpha is the alpha level stated for multiple tests conducted on the same data. Fisher's least square difference is the most liberal acceptable post hoc test, or LSD. This test is associated with the greatest power to detect an effect. You've seen ETA squared and omega squared before. ETA squared is often reported as R2 for an analysis of a variance test. Omega squared corrects the number of groups and the size of error in an ANOVA test. A post hoc test is a statistical procedure computed following a significant ANOVA to determine which pair or pairs of groups mean significantly differ. These tests are necessary when K is greater than 2 because multiple comparisons are needed. When K equals 2, only one comparison is made because only one pair of group means can be compared. A pairwise comparison is a statistical comparison for the difference between two group means. A post hoc test evaluates all possible pairwise comparisons for an ANOVA with any number of groups. Experiment-wise alpha is your aggregated level or probability of committing a type 1 error for all tests when multiple tests are conducted on the same data. The studentized range statistic Q is a statistic used to determine critical values for comparing pairs of means at a given range. This statistic is used in the formula to find the critical value for a Tukey's post hoc test. Observed power is a type of post hoc or retrospective power analysis that is used to estimate the likelihood of detecting a population effect, assuming that the observed results in a study reflect a true effect in the population. Be aware that there is some criticism for estimating power this way. And that's our worksheet. So our other one would be student resources, in-class activities, and then we'd want to go into chapters 9 through 12, and you get the statistics worksheet right here for week 12. It should look something like this. All you're doing is answering those questions. I would say do the first half, maybe. Now, for the variance and ANOVA exercise, we could do those all in SPSS pretty quickly rather than doing them by hand. And I do have the answers for these, but I want it to make sense for you guys. One, two, three, 4.
This isn't chapter 12, it's in-class assignment, is it?
It's activities, week 11, 13, 24, chapters 9 through 12, and under in-class assignments. I'll work on posting the answer sheet in just a second, but I want this all to make sense for you guys. What we just did with SPSS and coding the variables that way, you could do that literally for all those tables to figure that out. If you feel really comfortable about ANOVAs and what we did, I could make there be less of that worksheet to do if that would help you guys just for time's sake. Talk to me, everybody.
I'm sorry, what? I'm saving my stuff.
Probably sound like Charlie Brown's teacher to you. That's totally okay. So I think we should at least do the first 5 problems. All of this extra stuff we could do in SPSS, but I was kind of petitioning the group, like, how does that feel with what we do with SPSS in my worksheet? Because these are just basically practice problems to do. Or I could say, here's homework. I'll post the answers, see if you get there. If you get stuck, you can bring your questions, and then we dive into the SPSS we skipped last time. I'm just trying to be mindful, we got about 30 minutes left. My goal is not to overwhelm you guys. My goal is to like make it just adjustable and make sense. Practicing this probably wouldn't hurt you guys. Do we have time to walk through all of it tonight? I don't know. If we use SPSS, I could probably walk you through all this pretty quickly. If we try to do it with Excel and by hand, this is going to take like an hour. So tell me what you're all thinking. I own the academic freedom. I could make it less problems, but I also don't want to just cut it and then it doesn't, and then you guys don't practice and you get to the test and you're like, holy shit, this is brand new. What the hell do? I don't want that to happen for you. So. But I do have an answer sheet for this that you could check your answers on and that I could post like almost like in the next 30 seconds. I don't want it to feel rushed. I want it to make sense. Or we can start to walk through it as a class, but that other worksheet that we skipped last time, we may or may not get to that. I'm just trying to be mindful of the time. What do you feel would all support you all the most? That's for you too, Zoom folks.
That's for the last, I think it was 10 and 11, and I wasn't sure where in the book.
Oh, because I have that. I can do those.
Okay, so probably.
If I do that and then I post the answers for this worksheet, would that make sense for everybody? And then I would just say this is homework. And if you find yourself really lost on this, ask questions. And then what we can do is the review worksheet and or any problems from this one next week. I'm just trying to make sure we cover everything. And if you're like, I'm walking through it, it's making sense, you can check your answers. If you're like, I'm not even getting these answers and I'm stuck, then I would say, talk to me so that you're not stuck. So I'll totally post the answers so you guys have them. And I'm totally okay with that. And yeah, you could totally copy those if you wanted to, but I don't think that would help you. Like, I want you to know how to get there. So, let me go in and grab that because that's like hidden. I think that's up here. So we're going to grab. And yeah, and then I'll do the one you're talking about, Dorothy, in just a second. Okay. I'll just post that. Crap. Where did I put that? Structured resources. A chapter. Enable. So I'm going to post the answers right now to the second worksheet that I just talked about. And I'm going to put that under the announcements for you guys to have it. And then we'll dive into the worksheet you're just talking about. And then basically next week will be the review, wrap up, other questions, etc. So this is keep formatting, and this is the worksheet with the answers. Okay. Explain everything. And this is chapter 12 publisher worksheet. Submit. So that's available for everybody. And if Zoom folks had really strong thoughts or feelings, you're absolutely welcome to jump in. All right. So now it was 9, 10, it was 9, 10, and 11, wasn't it? I think it was not, I think it was the deep, I think it was here. Right? 9, I don't think we did that yet, right? Enable. So this was all the stuff.
Everything. We just didn't do that.
We didn't do the SPSS, so let's walk through that. So, okay, yeah, we can walk through that. So it was 9.6 SPSS. That was the first one. We did not do that yet. So give me just a second. I know right where that is. And then we'll do that. So you want SPSS open. Everyone's tracking with me, right? Everything I said made sense on the answers, what we're doing. Zoom folks too, when I say that, yeah.
Third question in the chapter 12 worksheet, it says go to 64. There's no 64 on the table. It's just 60 and then 120.
So just use what's on the table. Just use what's on the table. And I won't take points off or anything on that. All right. So we're going to do a 1 sample t-test with SPSS. I would either close it or at least get a brand new data file, so you have like a clean sheet like this.
How could I get, like, yes, what I was just working on into.
You should be able to cut and paste, or you could save it until it's export as a Word document. Yeah, what are you trying to do? Oh, you want to read it, so you do file? You can do really fancy, file save as. Oh, actually, get out of there. I told you, file save, file. Click on export. And then label it so you can find it, and then it's a .docx file, and then if you email it to yourself, it'll change it into a Word document you'll be able to read. Okay, so now we're gonna click on the variable view tab, and we're gonna type the word health in the name column like this. And we're gonna make our decimals 0 like that. When everybody has that much, tell me, and then I'll tell you what to put in here, okay? Now, this is tied to the first example in the same worksheet. That's where that's where these numbers are coming from, by the way.
Okay. I got that.
So we're gonna type, so here we're gonna type in 20, 60, 48, 92, 50, 82. Is that right? 20, hang on. 20, 60, well, actually, I think I can just grab it from the worksheet. I think that's at the top. Yeah, so you could literally go to the top of the worksheet, and we're going to take these numbers right here, and those are the same numbers we're going to put right into SPSS, like that. You want those numbers right there. Where the heck did I just get those from so quickly? I scrolled to the top of the worksheet we're on, and I cut and pasted the social functioning scores directly into SPSS. That's where that's from. And those are the numbers you should have. But if you scroll to the top of the worksheet in Word, they're literally listed for you. If you highlight them, do Control C, Control V, they'll go right into SPSS. What do you got?
Five, is what we're doing, right? On the worksheet?
Yeah, first 5. The 6 is wonky, right? No, on the worksheet. No, I want you guys to do the F stuff too, but I just posted. If you click right here on announcements, you click on announcements and scroll down. Here's 12 right here. Here's all the stuff that you're supposed to do, and then including all that, as you keep scrolling, scroll a little further. It gives you all. I posted all the tables for you guys with all the answers. And you can use SPSS or by hand. SPS is going to save you time. So if you took these and moved them in here, you should have something looking like this. And you all tell me when you have at least this much, and or the Zoom folks too. Okay. I'm going to loosely enforce that deadline for everybody else on the second worksheet. So if you're super lost, either sidebar with me between now and next class, or bring your questions to class, and then we'll talk about the review worksheet and or this, our last class period, since we covered all the chapters. So we can kind of like tie up any loose ends. And I could walk you guys through every one of those very quickly with SPSS rather than by hand, just so we were able to compress our time. I feel like because it's once a week, I just feel like we have less time. I think they should have given us closer to 9. Like when they scheduled it, because next term is 12 weeks and I have like 20 extra minutes, and I feel like that would make a difference. But you signed up to only be here till 8:30, so I try to be mindful of that. You know, when you all have this much data. That's also, Nathan, if you go into this, the same worksheet is all the way to the top. These social functioning scores right here are literally where I got this from. So you could just grab them all and cut and paste, and that would still be accurate. Does everybody have these numbers? So our next step is really easy. We're just gonna click on Analyze, Compare Means and Proportions. We're gonna go to the one sample t-test. So you wanna go that path right there. Once you have the data in there. You click this. Our test value is going to be 77.43. And if you're wondering where that came from, you go back to this. Say that about this population mean is 77.43. We're testing whether or not it's equal. That's where I'm grabbing the number from for our initial app. We're just doing it with SPSS and saving time. So we're putting the test value. Yes, you can keep that checked for estimated effect sizes. That's fine. And you're going to take health and you're going to drag it over here, or you're just going to go like that. Once you have 77.43 here, and health in your test variable, you just click on OK. And you have your one sample t-test, your degrees of freedom, all your stuff right there. And that's that exercise, and that's it for SPSS. You are allowed to use Excel, SPSS, or by hand. I'm teaching to all three, and I think all three have value, but however you want to get to the answer, just make sure you know how to do the steps, because if you do the steps wrong on the software, it'll jumble up your math. But if you do it right, it'll save you a ton of time every time. And these are all things we previously calculated. And that's that worksheet. Literally that easy. That was just the 9.6, save an SAV file, save an SPV file. That's chapter 9.6, and we're also doing 9.9, but that's easy too. I think might even be the same data. Yeah. So maybe give me a heads up when you save that, and then we'll do the other one. Okay. So I would probably just do a new data file. In the variable view tab, we're going to put groups in the name column like that. And then we're going to put intake here. And this should be, oh, not with. With can leave alone. We want the decimals. 0.
I know it's really not being screened. We haven't done it yet. We want those numbers right there.
We're going to use these numbers in a moment. Right here. You want to take a picture? You can. Yeah. I'm going to type them too, but I just want to know where this is coming from. We're going to use these numbers right here in a moment. These. Oh. Keep getting rock stars in the front. All right, cool. Awesome. Thank you. So we did this and this. In the small gray box, we're gonna do the values under groups, and we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna do 1 and 2. Is that right? Slowly, yep. So this is gonna be, so value 1, slowly. Value 2, fast. Say okay. These can be 0 also, that should be fine. So if you did the values, it should look something like this. Then we're going to do the data view. In the groups column, we're going to say 1 6 times. And then we're going to say 2 6 times. And then the values were what I just showed you guys. And you should have that right there. Does everyone have that? Yes, no? I'm not trying to rush you. I'm just trying to get through all of it by 8:30. That's all. If I need to be slower or you need more time, just talk to me. It's totally okay. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready, Dorothy. Yeah, just take your time. Just give me a thumbs up and then that'll be my cue. If anybody on Zoom is still working, you're good? Okay. But then we're going to click Analyze. And we're going to compare means. We're going to do the sample. One sample. Independent sample t-test. This one. So you click that. Now for this to work, you want the intake as a test variable. You want the groups as the grouping variable. So you want it to look like that. Okay. If it had question marks, if you just click define groups and then click OK, like that, so that it looks like this, it'll work. You leave this check, that's fine. And then you literally just click OK. And now we have the intake, the slowly and the fast, standard deviation, standard error. What we're looking primarily at is the mean difference, which is right here. And the standard error difference, which is right here. And then we're also looking at our t-score right here and our degrees of freedom, which is 10. And then you'd save that, and that's all the SPSS for chapter 9. We can 9 that's 9.9. So we said 9.6, 9.9, and then I think chapter 10 and 11, and I'll leave it up for a few, that's fine. I think chapter 10 and 11, I think it's just one SPSS, and because they're only taking a few minutes, we'll probably wrap those up today. We didn't do those, right? Okay. Okay, yeah, we can do that. Before I do that, is everyone good on this much of SPSS? I'm trying to follow through with everything I say, guys. I think I forgot the book once or something, but it sounded what? What happened? It did, but I don't think you were coming from that spot. I don't think you meant that at all. So we go into
I'm trying to save and then go to the next, so I'm not.
student in-class activities. And then we have our chapters 9 through 12. So we should be on 10. And then I think it's just that one. And if you've already submitted this, anybody, just please resubmit with SPSS because I am looking in terms of the points and everything. So let's see, I think it's just, what is it? It's 10.4, and is there another? It's just 10.4. Okay. Oh, yeah, so we got two more. We got 12 minutes. We got this, guys. The blackboard. You probably could. I don't know if I have the table to give you.
No.
Oh, yeah, you can do, yeah. And you can export it as a Word doc out of SPSS. Yeah. So 10.4. Present and absent. Okay, so we're going to go into SPSS. I would grab a brand new file, new data. So it's just so it's clean. Variable view, present, absent. Not Q, absent. Absent. For 10, yep. Decimals 0, decimals 0. And then it should look kind of like that. Decimal 0, present, absent. If you go into the chapter 10 worksheet and you grab these present right here and put them into SPSS, those can go right here.
Oh, the present.
And then grab the absent. And then you have all that data. And you go like that. Now you have the data. Then, and I'm going by Dorothy's cue. If anyone's still catching up or typing, just talk to me. We click analyze, compare means and proportions. And then you're going to go to the paired samples t-test like this. And we're going to make sure we put present right here and absent right here. So it looks like that. So the variables are side by side. And then you're going to click on OK. And then you'll get this file. And then you're going to save. And now we're going to do chapter 11. See, I said I would get you guys through it. I just didn't think I could walk you through the other worksheet by 8:30.
Yeah.
Analyze, compare means and proportions, paired samples t-test like this. I can leave that up so you can see it. Christian, that's fine. Once you get that, then you want to make sure it looks like this. And you can do that just by literally like moving the, like, all you have to do is like, once they're here, you just like either drag it so it looks like that with like the left, holding the left click mouse down, or you can just click on present, arrow, absent, arrow, and then you literally just click OK. And then that's the test. And then you save the files. It's like literally that easy. As soon as you click OK, it'll get it to you. And we have our upper and lower confidence limit, our T-score, our degrees of freedom, all kind of right there in front of us. We're not really going to worry about this extra information it gave us. We're more concerned about like this stuff right here. Should we do chapter 11? Sweet. Chapter 11,
I mean, is that one here?
I think it just has one. So let's see, we did all this before. Well, 835 tops, okay? So 11.5, so where's 11.5? 9, okay.
They're both like at the bottom.
Hang on. We might be able to use another, an SPSS file we already have. Because I think we're relying on data like a chapter or two ago, so I think we're gonna save the data entry. Let me double check something. Their table. Oh. 9.5. Sure, that's right. 8, there's 9.5. Table 9.4, then where's table 9.5? Oh, that is 9.6. Okay. Make sure that's right. Okay. So all we got to do for this one is we can go back to this file right here. You guys still got it open?
No.
If you didn't close it out. Health. Yep. It's just that one. So if you still have this open, all we're clicking is analyze.
Where did you get those numbers?
I got those from chapter 9 with the OCD scores at the top of the worksheet. This is so like 9.6. We're just doing something else with this one, which is analyze I think it's one sample t-test. Health. Yeah, right. Is it confidence interval? Continue. Yeah, so we just do that. And confidence interval. Is that right? Does that do? Output. Work. One sample t-test. Oh, and the confidence interval, 95%. Yeah. It might have already been checked. So all this is analyze. So we're just doing confidence interval. You have this file, analyze, compare means and proportions, one sample t-test. You click on options because you've already moved this variable over. You kept this the same. Options, 95%. Exclude cases, list by analysis. You leave that alone. Continue. Okay. And you get this right here with your confidence levels, your upper and lower, and your point estimate and your standardizer.
Wait, so it's health decimal 0? That's one.
Yes, decimal 0. Yep.
Okay, then I got the numbers and then where did you go?
Analyze, compare means and proportions, one sample t-test. You've moved health over, and then you're clicking on options, confidence, percentage, exclude cases, analysis by analysis. And then you click continue and then okay. And that's 11.5. And then we have 11.9. Point 8 in chapter 10. Or 10.8. 10.8. 10.8. Which table 10.8? Oh. Yep. Hopefully you didn't close SPSS because the other one's pretty easy to. So we're going to go into chapter. We're looking for this. Where is it? Not that one. this one.
Number.
So this one's the same thing, but this time we're gonna say, compare means and proportions. We're gonna do the paired sample t-test. If it remembers you want to have this or you want to move it over, all you do is click options, same thing, continue, and okay. And then you get a nice output file that looks like this. And then you save that, and that's 11.9. All we did is we just basically like looked at the confidence interval. That's all we did. We just added the 95% confidence interval with SPSS instead of doing it by hand. For both 10, for 11 just now. Because 11 is all about confidence intervals. I can show that to you guys again. We're about a minute out, and that is all the SPSS, or I can show that to you again. Like I said, 8:35 tops. I'll get you out of here on time, okay?
But hold on,
So you want to make sure you have this worksheet, or like this SPSS, compare means and proportions, paired samples. You want those options. Yeah, no problem. I can leave that up there. It's 11.9. But it is from chapter 10. 100% from chapter 10. Making sense, Nathan? Is it all clicking? Okay.
Yeah. Probably gonna finish at home.
That's fine. Yeah, and the recording, I can probably post that before the night's out for you guys.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it tomorrow.
And then once you click on this, the paired samples, we already did this step from before. You're just doing the options and you're doing the confidence interval percentage 95% right here, and then continue and then okay, and then it spits it out for you. And it's that last thing it shows at the bottom of the 95% confidence intervals. You want me to, where do they go? Paired samples t-test, yeah. Analyze. Paired samples t-test. Make sure presence here, absence here, options. You're telling it you want the 95% confidence interval percentage. You want to make sure this first box is checked, continue, okay. And then it literally gives you all of that. You have standard deviation, the mean, and then we have the lower and upper confidence limits right here.
the present and absent are the decimals both zero?
I think they are. Let me double check. Yep, they're zero. Yep.
Okay, and then I got the number, so sorry, where do I go?
You have those numbers,
Got it.
and then you click analyze, compare means and proportions, paired samples t-test. Make sure this isn't already defaulted, you want present here, you want absent over here.
Okay.
Then you click options. You tell it 95% confidence interval. It's probably pre-filled, but if not, you type it. Make sure this one's checked, exclude cases by analysis. Continue. You leave all this stuff that's checked here, checked, that's fine. And then okay. And then it literally gives you a 95% confidence interval. So you don't have to do it by hand, because that's so like 2000, right?
Yeah,
So I just stuff by hand if we don't have to.
and this is 11.9.
9, and that's all the SPSS that you unintentionally, passively, aggressively told me to explain like 10 minutes ago. Unintentionally. You're all good. You're good. You're good. You're good. So what we would have left would be the overall review worksheet, but that can be due after our next class. You can work on it on your own if you want to. I made that available. I can show you.
It's the one where we were maybe gonna go, but we didn't.
And the other one. So what we would have left for homework, but we can do this in class next week, okay? It's no problem. We would have this worksheet, the 12 statistics worksheet, and I did post the answers to that in the announcements. Okay, and you can do the math wherever you want, but we can do that in class and or bring your questions. And the other thing we would have left is the fall 2024 student resources, in-class activities. Now, for the end, we have two things. We have an exam 3 review, which is a PowerPoint, and we have exam 3 final review, which is a worksheet. And this is chapters 9 through 12 worksheet explaining everything. There could be some of the same problems, but it's a little bit more practice. This was requested by the student body at COD for this class to review 9 through 12 one more time. This is worth 30 points because this is the hardest thing. So our last class would be the one I assigned that we didn't do, which I posted the answers, and this, and or any other questions or any other random worksheets that we can get through to like give you more like structure. And then maybe your exam reviews if we have time to present them. That would be like, and then what I would say is probably within several days to a week after next week is when exam 3 would be due. It's not like, I want to give you guys time. I could probably go a week. I think I have 2 weeks. Let me double check with the calendar and stuff for final grades and or the scheduler to make sure that I'm not mistaken. And then I can probably go 1 week for you guys and then I'll have a week to do your final grades. I won't take a week. I'll do it right away. Yeah, because I think you have access to Blackboard for 2 more weeks after class. So the 14th, the semester ends. So that would only be 4 days later. So I'm pretty sure I can do that and not get in trouble for doing late grades. But I'd rather get in trouble with the administration and help you guys. Okay. I'd rather be like, why are the grades in that? Oh, I'm so sorry, I forgot. So you guys can have more time.
So this, we're gonna go in class next week.
So the plan would be this and the F score worksheet would be, and or any reviews or any other questions. Now the deep dive would be due like by next week. We walk through that tonight. It's the in-class activities, the chapter 12 worksheet and the exam 3 review. And all the pre-tests, all the post-tests at this point, you guys would want to do those before next class period. I will give you leniency if you've fallen behind or you need a couple things to submit. Don't wait to do everything for the class till next week. You'll run out of time. And I mean that with love, guys. Like seriously, you can't do it. You cannot knock the class out in a weekend. So. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for the soon.
Yeah. Thank you.
Don't forget you were gonna go through all of our post-1 pre-test.
Oh, I can do that. You want me to do that before you guys go? I can do that. Yeah. You guys can't watch me do it because it's grades, but I can do it. And I can tell you that it's done before you go, if you like. Where's the pretest?
2 hours and now I'm just so like.
Oh, pretest. Attendance.
That's the final grades. When are you submitting the final grades?
Probably a day or 2 after you guys take the final exam.
Because this, I just got the email and they said they are waiting on my fall 2024.
Or, okay, I mean, I have to submit them all at once in terms of how it works, like on my side. So
Before December 17th.
I don't think it will be because I just told Josh that it would be December 18th for these. So like, I'd have to move it up to help. I'd have to say the exams due sooner than what I just said to help you. They're gonna work with you. Who is it? Is it a COD? Yeah, you're fine. It'll be like an email from me. It's not as big of a deal as they're making it.
Because they said it should be submitted by December 2nd. Because they sent me an email.
I don't think final grades are, only if final grades do that early. COD.
I mean, for nursing program.
Yeah, I've had this happen before and students have been okay.
Yeah.
So final grades are due.
So in the packet, it says.
It doesn't say.
The prereq should be done by the 17th.
I see that.
Yeah, that was you
See, the reason it's problematic, I submit through Blackboard. And what would happen if I submit yours early? I have to do a grade change for all 20 people. That's like really an administrative nightmare. I'm not trying not to work with you. I could maybe tell them how you're trending or something, but I can see if there's a way to submit grades individually, but I think I have to submit them all at once. But I might be able, if you take your exam early,
Yeah, I will take mine.
I might be able to help you because I think I might be able to check and say, submit only your grade for a final grade and then submit everyone else's a few days. I think I can do that. Let's shoot for that, but I need to like know, like, I've taken the exam, all my stuff's in. I need you to cue me like via text and or email or both or a call. And then as quickly as I can, I will grade your final stuff. It shouldn't be a lot for me to grade because it's just the worksheets and the exam auto grades, but I do have to save it.
Okay.
I think if I check,
Because they said it's my fall thing is pending, and so they could
I think I can, I have to look. I'm trying to see if I can find chapter.
If you want, you could try with mine. I finished the exam 3.
Okay,
So if you want to try to accumulate and show them mine, you can.
Okay.
It has exact opposite effects. It burns off.
I don't know why I can't find the oh, here it is. That's right. I just saw the pretest. Pretest. Gotcha. 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5.
What's a pop-up providing psychology final? I've never used it. And I could choose two.
You have a psychology final? Not my psych course.
The lifespan and development, our final exam is us doing a potluck. I'm the room.
That's fun.
And all of a sudden, Courtney, she's like, oh, she's text, cause she knows that I'm a baker, so she's texting me like dessert recipes. I'm like, okay, I must be busy. I'm just like baking this, and she's like, by the way, you get a lot more as I keep watching it on Instagram. And so for like 30 minutes straight, she was texting me videos. It's the funniest thing, but now I have potluck idea recipes. So,
Nice.
yeah. Oh my gosh, like a chocolate chip, cream cheese dip.
This is like fun.
Yes.
I updated everyone's pretest scores. If you took it, you just got 2.5 points on the pretest. Under chapter 1, I just found it. It's in a hidden spot of Blackboard, but I found it. Then I went. Now, if you didn't attempt it, I didn't put any points in. But if there was a numerical value, I put in 2.5.
Oh, okay, great.
And then